role of water management in Nabatean society, it's kind of the big question, because on one hand, it's obviously very important. It's obviously very central to any kind of life within a semi-arid region. So Petra doesn't receive enough water for kind of what's called dry agriculture, so without additional water input. And the rain that does come, the water that is sort of available, is seasonal. So you have really dry summers, and then you have winters where you have these kind of pretty random and often violent storms that provide a lot of water, but very quickly. And so we know that water management is important at Petra, and we see lots of evidence of it, things like the canals and the cisterns and the terraces. But in terms of how it actually functioned within society, I mean, I think this is still an ongoing question. And so, and you have this kind of duality where, on one hand, they're trying to harvest as much water as they can from the landscape. They're trying to, collect it from the mountains and direct it in towards the city and towards the cisterns and various other installations. But at the same time, when those storms hit, they're trying to direct a lot of that water away from the city. So it's kind of a preventative and also kind of collective function at the city that I think changes depending on the season of the year. In terms of the significance of water for the Nabateans, I think there's different levels to it. So, at the very basic sort of level, you need water to survive, you need water for your crops, you need water for your animals. Depending on how large your herds are, how many camel caravans are coming into the city, how many people are living in the city, this sort of radically changes the significance in some sense of water to the people in a kind of practical sense. But beyond that, I mean, we do know that there are, religious structures and places of worship and sacrifice that are built in proximity to and in association with areas where, water flows or water is collected. And so there does seem to be this kind of religious element to water at Petra, which I guess isn't very surprising, again, given its importance. But we know so little about these religious structures and about religion in general at Petra, so it's hard to say in a formal sense how water was really conceptualized and integrated within Nabatean religion and Nabatean society.
We know a lot more about agriculture from later periods because of the Petra papyri, which refer to kind of land records and land holdings and that sort of thing. For the Nabatean period, we are looking mostly or relying mostly on the archaeological record, and a lot of this is in the form of terraces and water management features that we see in the hinterland, and we documented a lot of these in the course of Bupep. Documented kilometers and kilometers worth of terrace walls across the northern hinterland of Petra. And so the Nabateans were clearly involved in agricultural landscape management, which sort of boils down to water management. One of the things that we found when we did some kind of test excavations of these terraces and when we did some OSL dating on them is that a lot of them have really long periods of use. So some may have been built earlier than the early Middle Roman period and then rebuilt later, rebuilt again after that. And that's probably the case for a lot of the landscape.